This business training is called Ditch the Pitch. And what it is it's a way to talk about what you do in a way that's more effective so that you get results from it, whether you're networking or you're doing an event like this. There's a more powerful way to introduce yourself to not waste that little commercial time that you have. I'll give you an example. So this is how I introduce myself when I'm networking and doing things is I show founders how to grow their business and triple their impact. I love what I do. I have the best job in the world. And then depending on the scenario, so I always say something along those lines, depending on the scenario, if it's a scenario where people want me to give more information, then I'll usually tell a story about somebody's business that I impacted, both with the growth of their business and the tripling of their impact. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to develop this little intro in a way that your target market wants to follow up with you. So, for example, if we met at a networking event and I had talked about this and you were struggling with growing your business, but you also wanted to make a meaningful impact in your business, you would ask for my card or you would look me up on LinkedIn. That's the goal that you're looking for when you're introducing yourself is not what you say. It's not at all what you say. What it is your target market recognizing, hey, that's somebody I need to meet and wanting to meet with you. And you're going to learn how to do that today, and we'll actually get a chance to practice it. So Shiftco is very simple. We train purposeful founders, how to grow your business and maximize your impact. We believe those two things go together. Almost 90% of our members double their revenue, and that's businesses of all size. So from zero all the way up into the millions. And we have a 98% monthly retention rate. And the reason for that is we are all in serving you. This is my life's work. Anybody that knows me knows how committed I am to our founders that we work with. My mission, though, comes from this beautiful story of my grandfather. So my grandfather was an angel, and I grew up in a very difficult situation. Both of my parents were raging alcoholics. We were incredibly poor. I was abused in every way possible. But my grandfather was this amazing angel, and he gave me all of these wisdom insights that really shaped my entire life. And this is one which really led me to the work that I'm doing today. And so he lived in Sarasota, Florida. We lived in Sarasota, Florida, and he had a juice bar in one of the most beautiful places in Sarasota called St. Armand's Key. And it was a wealthy area. And he had this juice bar, which was very popular back in the 60s. And one day, this biker who didn't really belong in a place like this juice bar came in. And I remember watching all of the people in the juice bar kind of looking at him like, what are you doing here? But my grandfather walked over to him right away and he said, sir, how can I help you? And I could overhear their conversation. And the gentleman said, sir, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I used to drive down to the biker bar down the street, and I really want a beer, and I'm trying not to go, and your place looked inviting, and I thought I'd come in. My grandfather sat him down. He gave him a sandwich. He gave him some juice, and he said, sir, no charge. I want you to stay here as long as you need to so that you don't go back to that biker bar. And I was amazed at just how compassionate that was. And I'd obviously seen my grandfather do that. But then he walked over to me and he handed me this stack of bills. And he said, Terri, I want you to count this. And again, I was very poor and I was counting this money, like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing. And he said, honey, do you know what that is? And I said, money, Grandpa. And he said, no, that is my profit. And profit is the tip your customers give you when you serve them well. And I use some of that tip today to help that man. And the beautiful thing about profit is it allows you to help people when they need it. Man, that just blew my mind. And that's when I really decided that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And I've been an entrepreneur for almost 3 decades now. I had my own purposeful awakening and I started a purposeful Shark Tank called Share on Purpose. It's the only way to describe it. And we've got several companies in addition to some investments. Shiftco is one of those. And I spend about 70% of my time in Shiftco doing nothing but using my profits and my knowledge to help people grow their business. And then we also invest outside of our portfolio. Your Izzy is the first zero waste makeup and skincare line. It's completely recyclable. So that's an investment that we made. And I look for investments where I'm both going to make money and do good. And so that's my mission in life. And it all comes back to this elementary school lesson that my grandfather gave me about entrepreneurship. And that's what I believe about entrepreneurship is if you really want to make an impact, you have to learn how to grow your business profitably so that you have the resources to make the world just a little bit better. Now, let's get over to you. When I am working with founders, and I speak all over the world to founders, and when I ask them what do they need to grow their business, they always tell me, Terri, I need more clients. And I shake my head and say, yeah, I know you think that's what you need, but it's not actually what you need. What you need is more potential customers who are aware and interested in working with you. And this is the mistake that founders make is they focus on getting clients. That's not where I want you to focus. I want you to focus on meeting more people who become aware of what you do and learning how to talk about what you do in a way that they are interested in learning from you and wanting to get to know you. If you think about it, wouldn't it be a lot better if you went to a networking event or you spoke on stage or you did a podcast and you had people that wanted what you offer? That is very different than chasing clients. And we pride ourselves in Shiftco using what we call the authentic demand generation framework. It's a series of ways that we teach our founders to meet more people, but more importantly, to have more of the people that you meet who are becoming aware of what you do want to work with you. And so frequently I ask founders, what are you doing to grow your business? And it's typically networking, speaking, reaching out on LinkedIn, social media posting. I'm going to talk about all of those today. And when I ask them, well, is it generating new leads for you? They'll almost always say no. And so I want you to ask yourself that question. What are you doing to grow your business? Not to get clients, because that's not how I want you to think. I want you to think about growing awareness of your business. And when you do that, is it resulting in people wanting to meet with you? And it's typically kind of the rule of thumb. It should be about 3-to-1. For every 3 people I'm in front of, 1 person should want to reach out to me. So just think about that statistic. For every 3 people that become aware of what I do, 1 person should want to learn more about what I do. Maybe it's 5-to-1, doesn't matter. 5-to-1, 3-to-1. If that's not the results that you're getting, then it's a couple of things are off. One is you're not going to where your target market is. But most often, if you solve for that, it's because what you're doing and saying is more about you and not necessarily about what the buyer is looking for. So we're going to change that up today, and that's what we call ditch the pitch. Okay, so the first reason why I believe that marketing funnels don't work, anybody that knows me knows I can't stand the term lead magnet and click funnel because they're designed from the get-go to be inauthentic. So when you look at a traditional marketing funnel, and keep in mind, I've had 4 decades in marketing. So my corporate career was in marketing and sales. Then I started my own business almost 3 decades ago in marketing and sales. I've been doing this for a long time. So I know a lot about marketing, and I was trained on funnels, very early in my career. The way a funnel works, if you've heard that term, is buyers become aware, potential buyers become aware. And by the way, you need 3 times more awareness than you think you need. So think about that as we're going through this. You really need 3 times more awareness than probably what you've got today. That's the first thing that we work with founders on, is 3Xing the awareness. So just know that. Secondly, is they really need to be interested in what you have to offer and say. So if I'm out there and I'm talking about my purpose, or I'm talking about what I used to do, or I'm talking about what my title is, nobody's going to be interested in that. And so I've got to change that narrative to speak to what the buyer cares about. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. Third is they have to actually desire what you have and also be able to pay for it. And then lastly is they need to take action on that. So this is a traditional funnel. This has been around for, I don't know, 70 years since marketing existed. Anybody that was classically trained in marketing knows this. It's called AIDA. The problem that I have with AIDA and the problem that I have with marketing funnels is they are designed to get someone to buy. So they're very inauthentic. For example, when somebody signs up for one of our events, they're like, oh my God, your events are better than some of the paid stuff. What's the catch? And they're always waiting for me to try to get them to buy. And I never do that because I don't need to. I don't need to because I generate 3 times more awareness that I need. I serve people authentically, and the ones that want to buy from me. And I'm going to show you how to do some of that today. So when I kind of pivoted to authentic business in 2008, I sold a very successful growth strategy, marketing strategy firm. We had about 40 full-time consultants growing some of the biggest brands in the world. And I had my purposeful awakening, and I realized I was growing things that didn't matter using marketing techniques that were incredibly inauthentic. And my soul was dying in the process. And I just told myself, I can't do this another day. I'm not doing this another day. I sold the business in pieces, started over, and started the Share on Purpose portfolio, which is kind of like a purposeful Shark Tank. But the first thing that I had to rethink was this slide. And I said, I don't want to do business this way. I want to figure out a way to make it more authentic. And that's when I developed the authentic demand generation framework. And I started thinking about marketing like building relationships. And so I took the same 4 phases, AIDA, awareness, interest, desire, and act. And rather than using those terms, I'm going to put those terms up here so you can see them. I started thinking in terms of building relationships. And so I said, what are the stages of relationships somebody would have if they were, if I were marketing to them? And I'm like, well, first they would become aware. I'm going to call that a friend. And so maybe you found out about us on Eventbrite. Maybe somebody told you about us. Maybe you saw a post on LinkedIn. We're friends now, right? So we're connected. We're meeting. You've clicked on something. And then the second stage is what we call a follower. A follower really wants to get to know you. That's when the interest really comes in. They want to learn more. They want to learn from you. Right now, if you came to this webinar, we had, I think, 70 people register. Not everybody came. Some people will listen to the replay, but you guys came. So you're a follower. You're interested in the topic. You're interested in learning more. That does not mean that you want to buy or that you are ready to buy. And that's the mistake that we make, is we mistake interest for somebody wanting to buy, and we start selling when you really shouldn't do that. And that's incredibly inauthentic. So the first 2 phases, you have to 3X the first 2 phases. The reason why I don't need to try to get someone to buy is because I'm really good at awareness and interest. And when somebody's ready to buy, they buy. And that's a lot more fun than chasing people. And so when you get good at the awareness and interest part, which is what we're going to be working on today, the second sale, the selling part, where they actually make a purchase, is easier. And I don't have to, have a bait and switch or a click funnel or a lead magnet. I don't need any of that because I've mastered the first sale. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So what we want to do is get better at generating friends who are interested, friends who follow. And the better you get at that, the more sales you're going to get. and the less you have to chase people to get them to buy. And what we do at ShiftCo, and again, it's in a lot of our free training, is we teach our members and our guests how to do these first two pieces so that you get better at them. Okay, so to grow your business, you need two things. Number one is you need a lot more friends, a lot more friends. Look at your LinkedIn connections or whatever platform you're using to grow. How many do you have today? You need 3 times more than you have. And I mean a lot. So that's at a minimum. So if you have 1,000 connections on LinkedIn, you need to try to get to 3,000 as quickly as possible. If you're on Instagram, same thing. If you have 1,000, it needs to be like 3,000. And the second thing, which is what we're going to really key in on today, is you have to talk about what you do so that you're interesting to them. And what that means is you're not going to talk about your title. You're not going to talk about your past. You're not going to talk about what you do. What you're going to do is you're going to talk about how people benefit from what you do. And I'm going to show you that formula today. So first and foremost, you need more friends, because this ditch the pitch doesn't work unless you have a lot more people that are paying attention. So number one is, where is your buyer now? You cannot wait for them to come to you. You have to know where they are, and you have to go to them. And it's the biggest mistake that founders make is they assume they could just post on social media and people are going to come to you. It doesn't work. And if you tell the truth, you already know it doesn't work because it's not working. So you have to go where they are. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're networking in person, the people that are in that room should be your ICP or your target market. If you're doing a presentation, the topic should be to your target market. If you're on a podcast, the topic should be, and the show that you're on should be where your target market is. Believe it or not, that sounds super obvious, but 8 out of 10 times when we're working with founders, this is the first thing that we have to correct, is they're not doing awareness building activities where their target market is. The second thing is you cannot, and I mean stop it, just make social posts. And the reason for that is anybody, if you think about it, if you make a post on social media, I made 2 posts yesterday and 1 today. Everybody that I'm connected to already knows me. They're already friends. So maybe it reminds them that I'm there, but it doesn't get me new friends. And the first place you have to start is you need new friends. So if you think that social media is the ticket, it's not. All social media is a way to remind people you already know what you do. So you can't just rely on social media. You've got to develop some other mechanisms. Okay, so back to this relationship building framework. So the first thing you've got to do is you have to 3x your awareness. Whatever strategies you're using to meet your target market, we got to find a way to 3x that. And the better you are at doing this, the more sales you'll get. Okay. And then, of course, the interesting part, what we want is we want people to go friend, follower. And then when they're ready, they will buy from you. This part right here is where the opportunity is right there, is how do I become more interesting so people pay attention, they want to connect with you, and eventually, if they're ready, what we call RTB, they will buy from you. All right, so that's what we're going to do today. And by the way, if you need help with the awareness, if you go to our YouTube page, there's a couple of trainings on lead generation. They're great tools for you for how do you build more awareness. Today, we're going to talk mostly about interest, but we do have free training out there for that. So first and foremost, if you're talking about yourself, people are not listening, period. So we've got to break the habit of talking about our past. We have to break the habit of talking about our purpose. We have to break the habit of talking about our title. We have to break the habit of talking about where we live. We have to break the habit of anything that's about us. Everything that you say, when you get that opportunity, whether it's 10 seconds or 30 seconds or 2 minutes that you have to talk about what you do, everything that comes out of your mouth should be about how you help the buyer benefit? How do they benefit from working with you? And again, everybody, 8 out of 10 people that we work with need help with awareness. 9 out of 10 people that we work with have to break this same habit. So you don't feel like this is a judgment. I had to break this habit as well. So it's not about talking about what you're doing. And what we call this is differentiation. And this is a kind of fancy marketing word. But what I mean by it, it's being different in a way that matters to your buyer. So if you go to a networking event and everybody's introducing themselves, almost everybody is talking about what their title is, what they do, what their purpose is, where they live, what they used to do. None of that matters. What matters to your buyer, the way that you pop out in front of them, is by speaking about what matters to them. And that's the formula that we call ditch the pitch. Because the first sale, that marketing, awareness, and interest, is not about you. It's not about you. The second sale is about you when they're interested and they want to learn more about you. The second sale is about you. And by the way, I think it's worth me putting those two back up here so that you can see it. The second sale, desire and act, that's about you. The first sale is not about you. The first sale is about them. And so you have to talk about them in a way that matches their problem and how they benefit from working with you. So most entrepreneurs, when I first became an entrepreneur in 2002, long time ago, I was trained to give an elevator pitch. We've all heard that. They are very inauthentic and canned, and I don't believe in them. And that's why we call this ditch the pitch. And the reason why it doesn't work is it's all about you, and potential leads are not interested in you. They are focused on the problem they need to solve. And if you're talking about you, they're not hearing anything about the problem that they need solved. And that's what we're going to work on today. So here's the steps, and then we're going to actually go through the technique, and then I'll turn the recording off so we can practice. You're going to go where your target market is. So first and foremost, whatever technique you're using, podcast speaking, social media, networking, being in groups, doesn't matter what it is, your target market has to be there. It's rule number one. And if you're not living by that rule, nothing is going to work. So that's the first thing. Secondly is when you introduce yourself, you have to do so in a way that speaks to their problems, not what you do. And then third is you want to ask questions about them. Be genuinely curious. The more a prospect is talking, the more interesting you become. That's scientifically proven, by the way. So when I introduce myself and I say, I show founders how to grow their business and triple their impact, my target market, their ears pop up. Why? Because they want to grow their business. And they're like, you show people how to do that? But the other thing about my target market that I know is they also want to make a bigger impact in the world. So I talk about that. I show them how to grow their business and triple their impact. And that's all I have to say. And then I'll usually, tell a story or something like that. Here's another one that we help one of our members come up with. I guide corporate teams to communicate more effectively to improve their performance. So their target market is corporate executives. Corporate executives are frustrated because their team performance isn't what it wants to be, and they know that they're part of the problem. And so I guide corporate teams to communicate more effectively to improve their performance. So these are the 3 steps. Again, first, you have to go where your target market is. Second, you got to introduce yourself in a way that speaks to them, which is what we're going to work on next. Now, passion and purpose differentiate you. Anybody that meets me knows that I am passionate about serving entrepreneurs. They feel it. It is not in the words, though. I don't say my purpose is this and I'm so passionate about it. I don't say any of that. I don't give you my story about why I started this. But people feel the passion and purpose. So when I speak and I say, I show founders how to grow their business and triple their impact, my face shows it, my words, my body language shows it. So yes, passion and purpose differentiate you, but not the words. People should feel it. The words should be about them. So here's the technique. One is I always like to start with something like, oh, I love what I do, or I have the best job in the world. And the reason for that is most of the time in networking events or in events like this where we got to introduce ourselves in the beginning, people aren't really paying attention. They're worried about what they're going to say, or they're checking their phone or something along those lines. So I start with something that gets their attention. I love what I do, or I have the best job in the world. And then you pause. And the pause is so people will go, oh, she loves what she do. I think I'm going to pay attention now. So they get a little lean in effect right there. And then you break it down like this. I show founders how to grow their business. And I always emphasize grow their business and triple their impact. And I'll usually put feeling into those words because I know my target market, my ICP wants to grow their business, but they also want to increase their impact. And if you break it down, one is you mention who you serve. I show founders. If somebody's not a founder, they're not going to tune in, but they're not my target market. So that's fine. So that's the first thing is I show, I guide, I teach, anything there except in terms of the verb. So this is the verb. Don't use the word help. Help attracts people that or have kind of a victim mindset, and they usually don't buy from you. So you want to use what we call an action verb right there. So I action verb who your target market is, who you serve. And then secondly, what is it that you do that solves their problem? Now, here's the fascinating thing. This is not about what you do. It is about what you do that solves their problem. That's the most important piece. What you do that solves their problem. If I got on here and I talked about my background, I've taken companies public, I've had multiple exits, I've grown thousands and thousands and thousands of business, and it was all about me, you would go la, 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 not listening. But when I say it like this, I love what I do. I show founders and they feel my heart how to grow their business. That's about you. That's not about me. And triple their impact. So that emphasis of my purpose and passion is how I say it. But the phrase of what I do is about them. It is not about me. And then that second part of that sentence, notice this is two sentences, the intro, which gets their attention, and this other sentence. I know that my target market, their why matters to them. They care about the impact that they're making. And so that second part is about why what I do matters is I show founders how to grow their business and triple their impact. And when I say that, my target market, heads up, like, oh, I want to grow, but I also want to make a bigger impact. Those are my peeps, right? So they instantly recognize, and it's like when I network, when I speak, it's like, boom, you can see my LinkedIn connections, pop, 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 pop. Why? Because I'm interesting to them. They're interested in what I do, not because of how I bragged about myself or whatever I said, because I speak about what they care about and what matters to them. Now, again, we're going to break this down and you're going to get a chance to practice. But what happens is your target market will recognize that you can do something for them, and then they want to connect with you. They want to have a meeting with you. And that's how you know it's really working. Here's another example. I have the best job in the world. Pause. Passion and purpose is in it. I don't need to give you my passion and purpose. You felt it. I have the best job in the world. I guide corporate teams to communicate more effectively to improve team performance. Again, target market, who you serve, what you actually do. This is somebody that teaches communication skills. But the reason why it matters is to improve team performance. So that's the technique that we call ditch the pitch. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to practice it here in a minute, but it's really about breaking things down and winning this first sale. If you win the first sale, the second sale is easy. And the better you get at this, the easier it is to make sales. Okay, So I'm going to pause the slide and the recording.